Good evening, everybody. This is the Wednesday, December 17th Rockport School Committee meeting. Let's begin with introductions. We'll start with Mr. Lorenz.
Mark Lorenz, committee member.
Nicole Altieri, School Committee Vice Chair.
Amy Oakes, School Committee Chair.
Good evening, Mark Branco, Superintendent.
Jessica DeLisi, committee member.
Tammy Teitelbaum, Committee Member.
Charlie Tells, SAC.
Great. It's time to approve minutes from our past two meetings. That would be December 3rd and November 5th. They are in your drive. Hoping everybody had a chance to review them. Are there any suggestions or changes? Okay, hearing none, I'd appreciate a motion to approve both sets of minutes.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. That passes. Thank you very much. Public comment. I don't believe we have anyone in the audience tonight for public comment, but I think we do have some correspondence. Dr. Branco.
We do. We just want to acknowledge that Dr. Ray Cahill from the Board of Health, the Public Health Director, had sent an email to Mr. Lorenz just to let us know about a grant that some of the other school districts around us, including Gloucester and Beverly, were part of. It is a grant that came out of the State Health Department, so it does not come through the typical grant channels that we have access to. So I think as we move forward, we're going to make sure that we can stay in contact with our own Board of Health to see if anything comes through those other avenues that we can take advantage of. So I thank him for sending that, because I think that'll help us close a gap as we continue to chase grant funding.
Great. And will somebody get back to Dr. Cahill so he knows that we received it? Super. Thank you. Okay, donations.
None at this time.
Thank you. Personnel.
I believe we have none at this time.
All right.
Do you see
I
two?
think we
Oh,
might
you
have two in the
Yeah.
drive.
Thank you. Thank you for paying attention better than I just did. So thank you to Julia Katz for her time as a elementary school paraprofessional. She is moving on. And welcome to Margaret Dyer, who's been hired as an elementary school paraprofessional. And again, I say this almost every time. It tends to be quite a few paras. And in most cases, we're really excited for our paras because they move on to education adjacent positions or up. We have some paras studying for the teacher tests right now, so it's a good opportunity to celebrate their ability to stay in the profession and kind of move up a little bit. So thank you to Julia and welcome to Margaret.
That's great. Thank you. Now, perhaps our favorite part of the meeting is share this success, and this is when we get to hear from Charlie about what's going on at school. Charlie, go right ahead.
Hello. So some updates we have from the elementary school. We had like a joint orchestra meeting where we played like icebreakers with the elementary orchestra, and that was very fun. There's a lot of us, but our orchestra department, makes it all work out. We all, all the people get together and it works. For middle and high school updates, there was an engineering tug-bowl principles of engineering class. I don't know too much about it. I know some people who were in it, but I've heard a lot of good things from the engineering class. Middle school is doing the musical Matilda, and musical chairs for Spirit on the half day before Thanksgiving. All the classes wore their colors. I will say, I'm a little biased because I am a junior, but juniors won both musical chairs for that, just to say that. For sports season is over. Boys finished 8th in Division 5. Girls top 16. Winter sports started, offering hockey, cheerleading, basketball, swim and dive, track. I'll mention swim and dive because Anna Patrick is doing a swimathon for Special Olympics. For the arts, it's been a big few weeks for concerts. We've had a chamber concert. I did one for the middle school too, where I just ran through and dropped off chairs and stuff. But for the next night, I got to play in it, and we got to be hosted by the Shaylin Liu. That was awesome. It's such a great venue. And tomorrow we have a orchestra summit, which is a fundraiser for Finn Mulkern, who's a very good friend of mine, who is struggling with cancer right now. and is an amazing, musician. He's currently at Berkeley. He's a fantastic bassist. So tomorrow will be a fundraiser for him. Yes, we had the jazz concerts last week. High school chorus went on a field trip to sing for Day by Day Adult Daycare in Gloucester. We have lots of new clubs getting, maybe not new, but starting up this year, like Newspaper Club, Film Club, Drama Fest tryouts are soon. Chess Club, Games and Gains Club, Yearbook Club processing, Ski and Snowboard Club. So for that, it's really good. And DECA Career Day was great too. Yes. Yeah. Oh, and we have a fundraiser. We have a Rock the Socks drive to benefit the homeless too, which is good. They're always out there collecting donations at socks, and it's great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions for Charlie? I mean, he's on camera. He's captive. Anything we wonder about?
I just had a question about the
Yeah.
swimathon.
Yeah.
Do you know if there's more information or where to find information on how to donate for that?
Yeah. Definitely reach out to Anna Patrick.
Anna Patrick.
Yes.
Thank you.
Her email probably is the Anna Patrick at rpk12s.org.
Thank you so much.
She'll have more information on that. Yeah.
I am curious about your committee,
Yes.
and I'm wondering, in the past, I think I remember that the committee would have an area of focus for each year, and I wonder if you've chosen an area of focus. Have I forgotten it? Just kind of in addition to all of the things that you report on, do you want to say a little bit about the committee itself?
Our committee, we've really wanted to, this year at least, focus on having each person who is in the committee focus on a very specific part of the school. So we have Timothy on elementary school. We have Henry on very specific departments in the school. So this year, at least so far, we've been focusing on organizing who we have looking over each kind of part of the school, going from elementary to high school.
Are you serving like as liaisons to those so that you can report back to the committee and talk about
Yes.
like how things are going in each of
Yeah.
the schools and what the student,
Yeah.
is it based on student experience?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, student experience. Definitely getting more input from the middle school as well. We've been trying to get more information about what the middle school is doing, and definitely the elementary school, because they're not far away, but they're in a different school. So we want to make an effort, to go out and talk to them, see what they're doing, and yeah.
And I guess my last question, then I'll stop peppering you, but
No, please.
is there anything that has surprised you so far in your role in this committee?
It's I learn so much about the school and how this school, functions, and kind of especially going behind the guidance. You don't really go behind in what's happening in the kind of the offices where the guidance counselors are, but like spending time back there, there's a lot of people back there that you don't see a lot of the time. So I just been learning about, or noticing, how many people are behind a school that you just don't see. And I that's what I notice.
I think that's a great observation. I think that there are so many people behind the scenes who make things go, whether
Yeah.
they are making breakfast, making lunch, keeping track of grades, grade point averages, student transcripts, paying bills,
Yeah.
working on the roof, the floors, the paint. I mean, it's really incredible
Yeah.
who's behind the scenes in a system. And I think it's great that you have an opportunity to see that.
Yes, and definitely with Mr. Montgomery too in the tech department. It's like a whole city back there. It's crazy. There's so many people back there, and they come out and they'll do something technologically really crazy, and then they'll go back in, and you won't see them for like a while.
Like moles.
They can like
That's awesome.
it's incredible.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But you sure see the results, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. Charlie, thank you so much for being with
course.
us. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it. And your perspective is important. You are the student voice, and we are really interested in what you have to say. So thank you for
Thank you so much.
coming and being with us and for sharing what's on your mind.
Of course, yeah.
All right. And as we will always say, as people finish their presentations, we love to have you stay. You are more than welcome. But if you have homework or a long drive home, we understand if people slip out. Okay.
Thank you so much.
That leads us to our School Wellness Advisory Committee update. Nicole.
All right. So we had our quarterly meeting for the Wellness Advisory Committee, and hi Charlie. We talked a lot about partnerships, which was interesting. So Ray Cahill shared, you would be surprised how important this is to everybody, the new bake sale guidance that he has sort of come up with. Most of it is things that at school we're already doing. But so he shared that with us, and that can be found on the town website under Board of Health. We talked about potentially partnering with other parts of the town on AED and CPR training. We talked about partnership updates with the library. So Emily, who's the youth services librarian, is on the committee, and she's doing some really cool things around youth mental health and just sort of distributing health information in the bathrooms within the library, and doing some book clubs that maybe focus more on health and wellness topics, which was really interesting. So it's seeing all the things that are going on in the community that we can partner with, that we can promote, that we can sort of see how they link up with things that were initiatives we have in the school. And then Erin Kniff talked about, she's continuing to move forward with the Play Ambassadors, which is high school students and middle school students helping on the playground to create opportunities for play for kids. And she's working with the guidance on that. It's been a little slow right now because guidance has been very busy. It's kind of like the college application season. But she's continuing to move forward with that, and that's great. Just sort of a way to, since we're all so close together, the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school, to kind of make those connections. And the bonuses, giving kids sort of a purpose in their play and guiding some of that play in really positive ways. So I think that was it. And Jeannie talked about an MIA wellness fair that she went to at Town Hall, and how great that was, and just encouraging more of the school staff to do that, and talking about are there ways that we can maybe expand on that within the district for staff health and wellness. That was it.
Do we have questions for Nicole? I know I appreciate your going and representing. Thank you so much. Thank you for bringing the information back to us. Unfinished business, I do not believe we have any. That brings us to our first report. That is Anne Marie Lester, our Director of Student Services, and we're going to hear about special education tiered focus monitoring. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Now, there's a lot of acronyms, so be careful. So this is a DESE PowerPoint, as you can see, and it just goes over the brief overview of what we can expect this year from our tiered focus monitoring. So you can skip that one. Thank you. Okay. So the role of the public school monitoring is to come into school districts and monitor compliance for special ed and civil rights, and how those two things impact student outcomes. They are also available to provide us technical guidance so that we understand the laws and that we are complying, and then help us if we need to do it, if we're not doing it for some reason, and update us on new regulations. Sometimes those get missed, and so just to keep us informed of that, and also help us develop supports and resources if we need to. So, I don't love the order of this, but just for transparency purposes, you can see that there's a standard, universal standard group B and a group A. We are this year in cohort or standard group B. So they address different points, and this happens every 3 years. So group B covers parent and community engagement, school facilities, licensure, professional development, IEP implementation, time and learning, and then equal opportunity and access. So those are the things that we will provide them information on, and they'll provide us with some feedback. The process covers, so I don't want to read it right from the slide, so I'm trying to not look but talk at the same time. So sorry. I'm going to slow down.
Anne Marie, before you go on,
Yeah.
can I ask?
Sure.
Is Group A a different year? Is it a different set of things? Is it
Yes.
a different region of the Commonwealth?
So it is different topics. So later in the slideshow, so every 3 years, we either focus on Group A or Group B.
I see.
So
Do we choose or do they?
they do.
Okay.
And what happens is over the 3-year span, year 1 is a self-assessment. Year 2 is when they come and do their visit. I provide them with their evidence and they get parent feedback. And then year 3 is how we respond to the report. So if we have to make any compliance changes, they give us time to do that. And then we start all over again with a different group of topics. Yeah. So basically, they provide us with criteria. I have to provide them evidence that we're doing certain things. So that's the district support part. They will also email a parent survey because parent input is a critical part of the process. They will visit us in March, so they do an on-site part as well. And then they take all of that information, analyze it, and then send us the results in a report. So the self-assessment that we worked on last year basically asked us to look at our special ed and civil rights policies and procedures. So sometimes we do things and we just automatically do it. So being my second year in the role, we're really looking at those policies and procedures and making sure they're all up to date. And so once they are, we submit them up in the DESE website. We also have to look at licensure of special ed staff and any contracted staff. So we contract our physical therapists and occupational therapists, so we have to make sure that their licensure is also up to date. So we have to provide them documentation of all of that. And also in terms of school facilities, they want to come and make sure that we're not holding special ed classes in closets. They want to make sure that they are among the mainstream and in typical classrooms. And then focused questions, specific questions relating to special ed and civil rights. So, for example, there's topics like child find. So they ask us about our policies and procedures. We have to provide examples of child find letters where we post child find information and how we address it in school through our interventions process. So things like that. Yeah.
Can I ask one more
Absolutely.
question? Okay. The review of policies and procedures, are they internal policies and procedures, or are they the board policies that we have just gone through last year?
They are in-house policies and
In-house,
procedures.
internal. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. So we, Mark and I have a meeting with our representative from DESE on Friday to walk us through the process so we know what we can expect when she comes on site. She will be here the first week in March, so March 2nd to the 6th. So she will sit and review of our self-assessment. She will have our parent survey information by then. And then when she's here, she'll conduct some tours and do focused interviews, and that will include parents, staff, students. And it's the same thing over and over. Tiered for people that are curious or want to respond to the survey, you will receive that via email. We will distribute our list to DESE. They will make it available so it's accessible in multiple languages, and those questions will be specifically around the IEP process, the special ed process specifically. So things like, did you receive a meeting invitation? Was a regular ed teacher at your meeting? Those kinds of things. Those are expected, and so they'll ask parents to make sure that those things are happening.
So these surveys are only for guardians of students on IEP?
Yep. And then they'll take those responses, and then when they come on site, if they have questions, they'll follow up with staff about those things. So they'll let us know, like, these are some of the themes that we're seeing. Can you respond to that before they write their report, which is helpful because it gives us an opportunity to clarify or make adjustments before they even come and write the final report, which is nice. So when they write the report, as you can see, the compliance ratings, if there are pieces that are not implemented or partially implemented or commendable, like we do it beyond what their expectation is, those will be noted in the final report. Part of the report will also include an action plan. So if there are pieces where we are partially implementing or not implementing, they'll give us some suggestions on how to respond to that, which is helpful. Especially for somebody who's newer to the position, they'll talk you through that and they'll act as a support, which I'm looking forward to anyway. They have offered multiple trainings, multiple sessions in which you can go in and ask questions. So as you've been participating in the self-assessment portion, they have question and answer sessions that you can log into and ask questions, which has been great. So they do work closely with districts, and they say they'll continue to work with us for the non-compliance pieces so that we can build systems to make sure that we are in compliance. And they'll also work with us to improve opportunities if they see that we are not in compliance in certain areas. And she mentioned in one of her former emails that if there are certain areas where we're not compliant, she will help us provide resources to staff even and to administrators so that we can work as a team to get those things in order. So here's just the overview cycle. As I mentioned, so year one is the prep and self-assessment. One of the things that we've been doing other than uploading the information that they've been asking for, we have to prepare student files. So part of, they will review our entire IEP process from the referral to the initial eligibility and progress monitoring and the whole process. So they are looking for to make sure that parents receive the IEP within 5 days. They are looking at the attendance sheet to make sure there was a regular education teacher there. They will make sure that parents received a meeting invitation 10 days prior to the meeting. So all of the regulations, they are making sure that we are in compliance with all of our regulations. And so part of that self-assessment is looking at our folders and seeing looking for what they're looking for to be sure that we have all of that information. Again, they give us an opportunity to kind of clean things up before they come, which is nice. And then we also know where the holes are, so we can work for a year before they get there to make sure there's nothing. And then year two, which we are currently in, they will come do their monitoring and provide us a report. And then year three is the follow-up, so the internal monitoring. And so that happens with group A and B, so each time it's a 3-year cycle. So just what you asked, Amy, group A focuses on special ed identification process, so how we refer and identify students, parent involvement, the IEP development, programming and support pieces, and equal opportunity. They're not looking for compliance as much as the parent involvement piece, which is helpful. And as it mentions on the right, in order to do that, they look at our student records. They do a data review. They review our special ed manual, which has our policies and procedures. They will do interviews again, same thing, and they'll do a parent survey. So the process is very similar. They just target different areas. Excuse me. So here it talks about the problem resolution services and the public school monitoring. Again, I don't all the acronyms, but PRS helps address any concerns or complaints. So parents, if they feel like we have not, for example, provided them a voice at the table during the IEP meeting, they could file a PRS complaint, and then DESE works with us to remedy that. That's part of this monitoring, so they'll make sure that we don't have multiple complaints, and if we do, how do we fix it? And then the public school monitoring piece is more general, and so that informs the tiered focus monitoring. It's all builds into each other. Yeah, so I just wanted to give you a quick overview and let you know that they will be here in March, and then we can expect a report after that.
Thank you. As somebody relatively new to how things work in Massachusetts, I find this very, very interesting. And I wonder, is this something that everybody already knows about? Am I about to ask questions where you all know this already?
I feel like if we've been on the committee,
You've gone through this. You're always in year 1, 2, or 3 in either A or B.
Yep.
Yes. And this is the state reaching out, or the Commonwealth,
Correct.
reaching out to each school system in the state of Massachusetts. This is fascinating to make sure that everything is as it should be. And very, very interesting. So I hope that this feels like a partnership with the state. I hope it feels like it's this ongoing relationship, that we get good information, good feedback, good support. I hope it never feels like a gotcha. I hope it doesn't make people nervous. I hope it feels like, yep, this is what we do, and every year we're in one phase or another of this work. And I guess I'm sort of asking everyone in the room, does it feel that way?
I feel like it does, especially being new at it. Last year I was overwhelmed and panicked, and I was just like, nope, we're going to take one question at a time. And the team, I drove them crazy for a little bit because I needed information from both principals and from Jody and from Mark. So that felt overwhelming, but every time I could upload information, I was like, okay, next one, moving along. But they do offer plenty of support, and like I said, they have office hours where you can log in and ask questions. Like if you don't understand what they're asking, they're very willing. If you email, somebody will get back to you. It has been a partnership. And I think, again, they're just making sure that we have students, interests first. Yeah.
I was just going to ask, so last year you did the self-assessment, and now sounds like you're kind of just waiting until the visit coming up.
Yep.
Is there things that came up in the self-assessment that you're still working on before the visit, or are you just kind of waiting at this point?
Kind of just waiting.
Yeah.
So there were a few things with paperwork, making sure that we had everything uploaded or everything was in a child's file. There was nothing that we had to completely change in terms of practices. So yes, so now we're just in the waiting phase.
That was going to be my follow-up question
Yeah.
then, is if there's anything the school committee can help provide or anything you
you.
need through Mark, before that visit.
Yeah, thank you.
Reach
Appreciate it.
And if I'm listening correctly, we are not needed during the visit. We're not part of. Okay, thank you.
But I do think what'll be interesting is the feedback that you get it's twofold. It's validating in a lot of ways, right? To say, yeah, we have been targeting these areas to try to be more successful for families and students. And then sometimes it's validating in the way of like, yeah, we know we need to be better at A. And so I do think it is a partnership. I mean, it's sort of just culturally ingrained in the state, right? But I do think as far as the work your team does, it helps answer the why. So when we talk about why we're changing practices, why we're implementing new programs, why we're changing hiring patterns or staffing patterns, it gives you some justification for the work too. So
The process is interesting because DESE is also evaluated. And so when they have glaring areas of concern, then those are put on public schools, right? So they're saying, we're not doing this well. And so we need to make sure that you're doing this well. And so they give you, webinars and trainings to help do that. One of the new aspects of this part is also a fiscal audit of our grants. So our group is not due until May, and this is very new. So again, it's really just spelling out your policies and procedures about how you spend federally funded grant money for IDEA funded grants. So that is new, and we've had, I think, 2 webinars, which, it's kind of like, okay, but I think once we meet with her on Friday and I know sort of where we need to go, then June and I can focus on the other piece. But so they're continuously revising and revamping their expectations based on what they hear from the government. So then it trickles down, if that makes sense.
Other questions or comments?
I just want to say, like, super refreshing to hear. Like, you seem excited about learning. Like,
Which is crazy, right?
yeah, like to me, I'm like, this would seem like daunting. Like, oh God, what am I doing wrong? But you seem like excited to be like, how can we improve? And
Yeah.
I just appreciate that. Thank you.
I think we also really appreciate the time that it takes to do this. And even if they don't feel like they're breathing down your neck, it's a big thing to come into a new role and to have this ongoing cycle. I think it's great that the state is supportive and that it doesn't feel like a gotcha. And boy, we'd much rather partner with DESE than to have other organizations from other levels of the government, including federal, breathing down our necks. So it just looks like such good work, and I think we all look forward to hearing what we learn, and I bet you'll be back at the end of the year to give us an update.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to the competency determination policy review and approval. Jody Goodhue, our Director of Teaching and Learning, is going to give us an update, and then I think our subcommittee has something for us to consider as part of this.
I can blow right through this one if you want me to.
Okay, so starting with the competency determination, the CD policy, if you remember, with the ballot question that got rid of the MCAS as a requirement for graduation, every district was tasked with coming up with their own CD policy, and we did that last March. We approved that, and that is what we've been going by. And now this is from the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education and the Governor's Office and DESE all combined coming out with what they want us to do here. So they have updated guidance of what our CD requirement should look like after we had already voted on one. And then they just released the new high school graduation framework. It is a 108-page document that is called Reimagining High School Readiness, which I haven't read yet, I'll admit. But that's going to help us frame our vision of a graduate, portrait of a graduate, as well as the CD requirement. And the final report from the Graduation Council, which was put together last January after this ballot question, is not due out until June. So I'm expecting there will be more changes coming over the next couple of years of what we do to this. The state is framing this as a comprehensive approach to setting high standards without relying on high-stake tests. And a quote from the governor is that when your kids go to a Massachusetts school, they're getting the best education that prepares them for success. So they're making sure that the Massachusetts standards stay as high as they ever have been, even though MCAS isn't part of the graduation process anymore. This is the language that we put together last March that was approved on, and which is our current CD policy. And now the state has come out with a framework of what they want us to do to make sure that all districts across the state are having the same kind of standards and a framework to make sure that all kids are included and have access to passing the CD requirement as well as the graduation requirements. So they want graduates to have a clear sense of purpose and also have the skills to pursue it. So the framework is based on making sure that all of the coursework that we offer aligns with admission requirements at higher education levels, that we make sure that our students are mastering the concepts in each of these courses that they take, and that there is college and career planning included with all of these pieces. So this jumps into exactly what the meat of the CD policy will be. And if you look down the middle is actually just framed out what we had put in writing last year in written format into a chart format. And we added the history and social science requirement, which isn't quite needed yet, but we want our framework to be as complete as we can because we know we're going to have to revise it in the future. And then we didn't want to leave out the graduation requirement, even though that's not part of this policy because there's a separate graduation policy, but just so that people can see that that's not all you need to do to pass and get a diploma from Rockport High School or any Massachusetts high school. So if you look at the mathematics, that's really a grade 9 and 10 math, just like a grade 9 and 10 English. It's a grade 9 and 10 science, which our kids follow through physics, chem, and bio, so they do the 3 years anyway. And the history, they're just looking for a U.S. history, which we do, world history, and then 2 years of U.S. history. In addition to this, there's a lot of other requirements that are already laid out in the other policy and in the course, the program of studies that the high school puts out. So there's PE, wellness and health requirements, fine arts, world languages, electives, and community service in addition to this, but those aren't included in here. There's one line in the actual policy document that states there are additional requirements. This is the big part, is they wanted to make sure that they defined what all of these things meant at a statewide level. So it's a template that we had to fill out and come up with a language that went along with it. So in terms of demonstration of mastery, they are looking at making sure that we have ways to do that even though there is no MCAS, to make sure that students have mastered those content areas. So we could do that through an end-of-course assessment such as a final or a culminating project or portfolio or an equivalent measure that we determine as a district. Then in terms of student with disabilities, this needed to be added to make sure that there's equal opportunities for access to receiving the CD requirement based on IDEA and FAPE, the free appropriate public education. So students with disabilities are allowed, of course, their accommodations and modifications to access the coursework and the assessments. And they can do a portfolio review instead of a final end of course assessment, which is an alternative assessment, but it's not the MCAS alt that's required anymore. We could have our own portfolio assessment, and IEP teams will review that progress towards CD annually for students who are up in the 9th and the 10th and the 11th grades. In addition, our out-of-district students who are at other districts now have to meet our CD requirement to be able to graduate as well. So that's something Anne-Marie's been in discussions with different out-of-district places about that.
Could you say that one more time?
Our students who are placed in other schools, out-of-district placements for special education purposes, have to meet our CD requirements.
Does that mean that a school with students from 17 different school committees has to have eyes on 17 different sets of requirements?
Which is why those of us who have been trying to pay attention through Anne-Marie's office, Jody's office, and my office, in our cohorts, the North Shore has really tightened this up through the collaborative to make sure that while there's uniquenesses to the Rockport policy versus the Gloucester versus the Hamilton-Wenham, the language around special ed students is going to be similar and flexible, so that the collaboratives and the private programs should have enough flexibility that they'll be able to do this work with us. But I think it's going to be something that Anne-Marie's office is going to wind up staying on top of.
And is it in fact already that way? Students already have to meet their own local graduation requirements, and those schools already have to cope with that. Thank you.
For English learners, we have the ability to be more district determined whether they've met the requirements in terms of ELA coursework. And then we have the ability to look at this at a case-by-case basis on whether they've met that CD requirement. And then the WIDA assessment is, thank you, you threw that in there. So we know what it's what it stands for now, because I couldn't remember, but that can be count towards a CD determination where they're assessed in listening skills, speaking skills, reading skills, and writing skills. And then late enrolling students, so students who come in after 9th grade to join the high school, there's a transcript review by the principal. Individualized plans can be created to help them complete the coursework they need and to give them more of an ability to meet the CD requirements as well. And then in addition, we needed to add in an appeals process for anyone who felt that they should have met the CD requirements but didn't. So we put in a 2-step process where first it starts with the teacher and the curriculum coordinator, so the department head basically will look at it first, and then if it's not resolved at that level, it would come to Amy Rose and to me to make this final determination. The one last caveat to this, which isn't on the slide, is that any previously enrolled students from 2003 to 2024 who did not receive a diploma because they did not pass MCAS can come back and ask for a diploma now, and can prove using our new CD requirements that they should be able to get that diploma. We don't have any of those students. So
The full policy is in your folder. So what we'll do is if you have questions or comments for Jody on this one, we'll hit this one first, then we'll let Jody reset for the second one. Same thing, questions and comments, and then we'll move forward with the approvals.
So I just want to be sure I understand. We passed something in March. We wrote a competency determination in March, but now we need to do it again?
More thoroughly and in the format that DESE and the state would approve.
Thank you so much.
yeah, this policy will now be uploaded into GEMS, which is the grant management system, so that they can track everybody's CD policy in the same place and make sure that we're covering all the different bases. They didn't look at all of these different cohorts of students and make sure that we were making sure we had the right accommodations for them to meet the CD.
And as Jody said, it is
It's gonna change.
Interestingly iterative. And so, we do believe that there's we know that the state is contracting with somebody to put together end-of-course assessments. It's quite possible that districts will not be controlling their own end-of-course assessments in the future.
So I just think about how we make sure as a system that students are not caught by surprise, that somebody who thought they were on track for graduation doesn't suddenly learn that they're not on track. I am sure you have eyes on every single student. Is that a concern
It's
at all?
not. It's not a concern at all. If someone does not pass 9th grade English or math, they have to take 9th grade English or math again, and that's tracked very heavily by the guidance counselors. If they don't have enough credits, they don't move on to become a 10th grader from 9th grade unless they have met what they need to meet. So there's a lot of checks and balances along the way. And since the CD requirement is so much lower than the actual graduation requirement, we don't think it's going to be a problem. But again, we don't know what's going to happen down the road.
And I just appreciate us saying that on camera in case anybody's watching or listening or comes back and is curious. So I just really appreciate that assurance for folks. Thank you so much.
And can I add, so I was going to add that our graduation requirements, those aren't changing.
No.
Based on this, but also this policy is more detailed than maybe some other districts. And even though it might be changing, we're kind of ahead of the curve a little bit on this. And a lot of that, as Joey said, is getting reported into this template for DESE. So, but we're being more detailed with some of the Rockport language in here.
Yeah, this policy is due into GEMS by December 31st. This was one of the ones where we got guidance in July. It was so ever changing, and knowing that the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education was coming out in December, we had a webinar the day they released the report. So it was iffy to send this in early. So now that we know what they were looking for, now we finalized this policy at the current moment.
Are there any other questions about this first policy? I understand there are two. Jody, do you want to go on and talk about the second one, or did you want us to pause, take a motion, and approve this one?
And then just approve both of them together.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So the second one is a middle school pathway exploration policy, and this has got to do with career and technical education, CTE. So this came about having to do. It's from the state. It's from the governor. There's laws attached to this and grant funding attached to this eventually, but they want to provide all students with more opportunities for admission to CTE programs such as Essex North Shore Tech. So there was a whole piece of this that is policy that CTE programs are creating to make sure that they are being more equal opportunity admissions places. And then there's a whole policy for us to make sure that our middle school students understand their pathways to explore. The governor's quote for this is, "Awareness of pathways and high school options while in middle school enables students and families to make informed decisions about education." So the questions we were looking to answer with this policy were, how are we going to collaborate with Essex North Shore? How will we provide opportunities for our students to tour at Essex North Shore, and how it connects to our post-secondary planning? So there's not a lot here that's different. It's just more memorialized in a document, the policy, once again, with their template, their framework. This one doesn't get uploaded to GEMS. It gets uploaded to CHAMPS, which is the hub for monitoring progress, I believe, just a whole different system. So the goals here were to expose students to the knowledge and skills needed to make informed decisions, to promote awareness of CTE programs, and to promote engaging career readiness, which is a really, really good goals to have. The pathway options for Rockport, this isn't written to limit options for students. This is written focused specifically on CTE. So when we look at this type of a pathway, it's either Rockport Middle High School or Essex North Shore Agricultural and Technical School, because that's what this policy required. And then in terms of middle school exploration, we have our students are meeting with their counselors to talk about their interests in academics and or careers early and often. And then we added in all of our Project Lead the Way courses by name, so that we know that our students are exploring these industry connections, these student opportunities, and these technical and engineering pathways early. Collaboration and student awareness is what we have always been doing. We collaborate with the admissions department in North Shore, Essex North Shore, and we currently give them all of the addresses and names of our 8th graders. This law has shifted that we have to provide them with the 7th and the 8th grade students' names and addresses, so that they can reach out by email or with flyers or mail to send them information, so they're aware of this. And then a presentation for the 8th graders at our school, which happens every single year already. So those are happening, and they come and they present on what their offerings are, what their career connections are, and what their admissions process is. We already allow students to take tours at North Shore on request. We have to make sure that they can tour. We don't count it as an unexcused absence. If they asked us to pay for transportation, we will take care of the transportation there, and of course notify parents if their students are going there. If a student applies to Essex North Shore, even though this is now a lottery system based on the new policies that they had to write, we will provide them with academic, attendance, discipline, or other records that they require. And then we have to maintain documentation of all the contact info that we shared, all of the on-site presentations that have come in, and our students who do participate in tours, which is something we've always done.
Questions about the middle school policy?
I think I have more of a comment, which is I like that we're specifically calling out the middle school exploration and the opportunities at Rockport with the new Project Lead the Way classes, because I know some of the feedback we've sort of talked about and discussed in the past is that they will come in, North Shore Tech will come in with their sort of presentation about all these things, and then maybe we need to be a little more forward in letting students know the opportunities that they have in Rockport. So I think it's great that both of those things are together in the policy, and we're specifically calling out the opportunities that we have here as well.
Anything else?
Just so that everybody understands, there's a connection between this policy and the changes that the Board of Ed has basically mandated on the career and technical schools.
Yes.
So if you remember, it used to be in Massachusetts that when an eighth grader tried to go, they would review transcripts, they would check grades, they would check discipline records, they would interview the child. There were a lot of hoops to jump through. And there were many people in the Commonwealth who believed there was an equity concern there, and that, students who, for lack of better language, the students who this was the really right fit for weren't getting into the techs and were being excluded from programming that they could have benefited from. So that's all turned on a dime, and our colleagues in these other schools are really trying to put together their lottery systems as quickly as possible. We just received a letter from North Shore recently to all the superintendents and town administrators and managers and city officials to let us know on the North Shore what that's going to look like. It really is going to be a true lottery system. Each school district was given an amount of seats based on a 3-year average. So, for example, our 3-year average of eighth graders going there is 5, so the number is 5 for Rockport. So what that means is if 10 kids wanted to go from Rockport, it would truly be a pulling out of a hat lottery. So we do think the changes are beneficial. It will impact bigger cities much differently than smaller towns, obviously. But for us, the biggest shift is really the 7th grade list, and they have actually changed their presentation as well. They've come back in with a much more refined presentation for the past set of 8th graders that came in, which is nice. So a little bit of truth in lending there.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I believe our policy subcommittee has a recommendation. Is that correct? Thank you.
Yes, the policy subcommittee recommends to the full committee that we approve the 2 policies as presented tonight.
Did you have any questions, or in your discussion, anything jump out at you? We're good to go?
No, one thing that did jump out to me is some of this information from DESE is like it's a quick turnaround for us, but a lot of that is because of the deadline, and the information wasn't necessarily given to us. Some of it until just the last couple of weeks in December. So it's a quick turnaround. So thanks for all your work getting it done. And yeah.
And it's great that we were so closely aligned before we had to hurry up and get this last little piece done, right? So good for the district. All right, then thank you for that recommendation. Thank you for the subcommittee meeting that you held, for the extra time that you put into this. Everyone, we appreciate that. I think that means that I am looking for a motion to approve both of these policies as written today. Today's our first read, our second read, and our final read. So, a motion to approve.
So moved.
And a second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. That passes unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Jody. All right. That brings us to the annual report from the North Shore Educational Consortium, and that is from Dr. Branco.
So in your drive, you should have a PDF of that document. And knowing Amanda, she probably made a hard copy as well in the folder. Did she? Yes, she did. So I obviously am not going to step you through the whole thing, but I love this report every year. Both the budget book that comes out from North Shore and the annual report. It's really comprehensive. It really helped me understand where I had landed when I came here 4 years ago, just to study, to read about all the programming, to see the amount. They have 6 completely different student programs going on multiple locations, and I've worked with three different collaboratives now in my career. Really, really strong collaborative, great leadership, great teachers. I've even been privy to the negotiation process to watch them all work collaboratively when I've filled in on the negotiation team in the past. So just a really, really fantastic program. I think they work well with the districts. They're very responsive to the board of directors. So as you know, I sit on the board of directors as your representative. And we have a really strong group there that has a really good interest at heart to make sure we're building programs and supporting programs for all the kids sending to the North Shore. So I do encourage you to take a good look at it and to really understand the programs. And Fran is always interested in having people tour. She asks all the time, does anyone want to stay after a meeting? I know that if any of you wanted to tour, that if I said I just want to come with a school committee member or two, that she would absolutely open those doors and give us the red carpet treatment. So if you're interested to see where we're sending our kids, I'm sure Anne Marie could facilitate that as well. So either myself or Anne Marie could go with you. It's a cool place to visit.
Thank you so much. That's a great invitation. I bet we can email you if we're interested.
Could I ask a question?
Yeah.
It's a great place. I've gotten to work with parents before, and it's amazing. My question was, we was talking about students from member districts. So, like, there's 370 students from member districts and 163 from non-member districts.
Yep.
Do member districts get like priority, and then if there's seats left, it goes to non-member districts, or
Both.
how does that work?
Not only do we get priority, but we actually get, I won't say reduced tuition.
Oh, I saw that on
They
there,
get
yes.
increased tuitions.
Increased.
Right, so there's a tuition difference, and
So we wouldn't have kids turned away
no.
because, so it's just kind of like a school choice situation.
there are some districts, there are some school districts that are actually members of multiple collaboratives, and then there are others that haven't joined collaboratives, either based on the size of the population, or they're so big that they've actually built a lot of programming, and so because of that, they only need a collaborative for really specialized programming.
So it just acts as another out-of-district placement for them, not necessarily
Yes.
part of their, okay.
Yes, yep.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right. Thank you so much. That brings us to FY27 budget development. Dr.
So
Branco.
it's that time of year. So this will be our first public conversation on the budget. This is really the annual preliminary introduction to it. Other than Tammy, everybody else has probably seen most of these slides every year. I try to do my best to make them different, but there's really no need to change them because it's pretty consistent. So what I'm going to do tonight is take you through the process, the overview, the timeline, and maybe give you a little bit of an understanding of what we've done as a leadership team already. And then moving forward, we will have 2 more meetings in January. At the next meeting, which comes very quickly, by the way, after the holiday break. So let's remember that when we build the school committee calendar next year. Somebody remind me to not do that to us. So just from a work standpoint. So we come back, January 7th with our next meeting, I believe. And it is our intent to present preliminary numbers at that meeting because we did have one last meeting with our retreat this year in December. So we will have preliminary numbers presented at the January 7th meeting, as well as our programmatic and staffing priorities. One of the really great things that feels good to say publicly that we've been able to say a lot at central office and in the leadership team meetings is that we've come out the other side at this point. We spent a lot of time, 3 years of right sizing, doing some very difficult decision making and hard work to restructure the district to make us kind of lean and mean and meet the needs of kids at a high level, but at the same time be responsible fiscally. And so as a result of doing that work, we are at a point where at that next meeting we can really focus on strategic priorities when it comes to programming and staffing, as opposed to having some of the more difficult conversations. It's an opportunity for us to breathe as school leaders and just to be able to say, wow, it's nice to be in that place. So right here, you're just seeing a quick timeline, so that in our first February meeting on February 4th, that's when the public presentation will hit. You will actually have the budget book well over a week before that. We're shooting for I think we're shooting for January 23rd or 24th, so we're going to have the budget book to you earlier than we've ever had it before. I think I'd rather have it in your hands with plenty of time to take a look at it and use that budget book holistically on the 4th to really step us through the entire budget, as opposed to slide decking some things. So we'll do. Our intent is to have that in your hands pretty early, and then between the 5th and April 11th. April 11th is the public presentation at the town budget, where you will vote at Springtown meeting. So between February 5th and April 11th, we'll take the road show with some members of the leadership team, some members of the school committee attending Board of Selectmen meetings, finance committee meetings, and any other community engagement opportunities that we think are appropriate between now and then. And then we'll hit town meeting on the 11th. So I obviously won't read this to you, but I want you to see that we need to remind ourselves every day who this budget really represents. It represents that group of town individuals who cannot vote, cannot speak for themselves. So we're really here for the students. This is a fantastic picture, so thank you to our principals and leadership team members who helped. This is our representative photo of one student from every grade. So thank you for taking time out of class, and I get a kick out of the height differential when you take a look at this. Honest Abe is still taller than all of them in the back there. But just a real quick reminder that when we're having hard conversations in our offices and here on camera, that we're really there for the voice of the students, and that we have to keep them at the forefront every day. Another reminder that we continue to follow the zero-based budgeting practices. We've done that well. Both principals worked with other central office leaders and with their building-based teams. Right up until Tuesday, we just had our leadership team meeting yesterday, where both principals presented their overviews and what their school should look like as we build it from the bottom up, and as we look at programming, and as we try to be creative around programming and staffing patterns, how that will what the budget implications of those wants and needs are going to be. So we had a pretty decent meeting, 2-hour session yesterday, led by the two principals, and we got to ask a lot of questions and had some really high-end brainstorming to talk about what you will see on January 7th. So I appreciate the team's efforts on top of everything else they're doing every day to run their schools. Quick reminder for us and for the public that there's really two major components of a school budget, and the one we're talking about is the operating budget that comes from the appropriated tax base. We also have the capital improvement budget that comes through CIPC. We actually, Kirk and June and I are going Monday. We have a meeting Monday at Town Hall with Capital Asset. And if you remember a couple months ago, we presented that list of priorities that we were asking for through the capital ask. And so we're going to have a full team meeting with all the departments across the town to figure out, what we can and can't get. And so we will report back to you after we have that meeting as well. So for the purposes of these next 3 meetings, we're talking about the operating budget. But just a reminder to the public that, we have these 2 pieces of the pie that make up the entire budget. Also, this is my favorite cheat sheet for people, and I know we've had good feedback from people in the community who have looked at this page pretty closely to make sure they understand it, that the town contribution is about 75% of our actual anticipated costs. The reserves, which are made up of circuit breakers, special education, transportation, and school choice, make up about that other 25%. We, as you know from past budgets, we also have user fees and grants that are in there. And then if we need to, we also have our reserve accounts. So just a quick cheat sheet for all of us to remember that as we go through this, that there'll be lots of buckets that we're looking at when we present the budget to you and when we ask good questions about how we're building it and how we're establishing our priorities. Kind of tweaked our goal. I took a good look at our SDI and our mission and vision, and I wanted to make sure that our mission and vision language kind of dovetails with our budget language. Because I think that's really super important for us, so that when we talk about developing fiscally responsible budgets, that does not mean we are not focusing on growth and achievement, and it also doesn't mean we're not trying to be highly competitive to get our kids ready for college and career and service. So the money allows you to do that, but to have a purposeful strategic vision allows us to justify the money at the same time. So just wanted to tighten this up a little bit for us to make sure that when we talk in the public and when the public hears about what we're looking for, that there's a real focus on that work. Also think it's important at this level publicly for people to remind themselves of where we've been and that we've been responding to this challenge for 3 years at this point. So in response to declining enrollment and the rising cost of education, that the district has been engaged in the process of right-sizing over the past 3 years, and that when we developed the FY24, FY25, and FY26 budgets, this was accomplished by really scrutinizing staff models, looking at all of our resource allocations, and that resulted in budgetary reductions of $343,000 the first year, $1 million the second year, and $1.4 million the third year. And it was real people. It was 32 positions over those 3 years. So we know that, but I feel it's really important to state it publicly and to package it so that people understand that we have been doing the hard work to try to be respectful of the taxpayers and to put our best foot forward on behalf of the students in this community. And when you see it in front of you there, it's real. So I just wanted to make sure we had that conversation at least at the start of our budget cycle tonight. Along with that, really proud that this slide exists, because in a lot of other school districts, a lot of other organizations, when they're right-sizing, downsizing, making cuts, the quality of the product, so to speak, usually suffers. That just tends to be how things happen in big organizations. That was not the case here. Kudos to the leadership team and the teachers and the support staff for really being able to work collaboratively and helping us make all of these bullets happen. So you can see that this is just a short list of improvements and ways that we've been able to maximize our school district to meet the needs of our students, all while making those difficult reductions and paring down the financial operations of the district. And now, as we finally prepare to build this budget, I am proud to say that we've stabilized financially. We are in a strong position, and we are poised to plan for the future on behalf of our students and our families. We strive to provide a rigorous menu of course offerings, as well as high-quality fine and performing arts and athletic programs. We had a conversation just the other day. Actually, we've had many conversations, so they're all blending in my head, I think is one big one now, around what a comprehensive high school is and what it means to graduate from a comprehensive pre-K to 12 program. And what that means as far as access and opportunity and being prepared for college, career, and service. And so we continue to have really high-end conversations about what that means from a programmatic standpoint, from an instructional standpoint, from an access standpoint. And so it's really nice to be able to have these conversations this year in a time when we feel like we could focus much more of our attention on those conversations around growth and achievement and meeting the needs of kids. The team has already met many times individually and collectively to identify staffing and programmatic priorities. We've looked at master schedules and programs and staffing patterns and lots of student data. And we will come to you on the 7th with some real numbers and with hopefully some meaningful programmatic and staffing hopes that the new budget will be able to support moving forward. So that's what I have as a precursor to January 7th.
Thank you, Dr. Branco. Are there questions or comments from the committee? My comment is that I appreciate how much hard work has been done over the past 3 years. I appreciate the sacrifices that have been made to bring us to this position. And I appreciate the hard work and the smart work behind that list of initiatives that we have for students. In the loop, which we keep sending out, features a column from all of us where we talk about how important we think it is and that it is indeed possible to be small and smart and strategic and focused. And so I see this work as how do we be small and really smart and strategically focused. I appreciate, and I suspect all of us appreciate, the language about growth and achievement, the goal. It's not just about balancing the budget. It's about great outcomes for students. And so I appreciate that as well. I appreciate just coming right out and saying, this is how much money we had to cut last year, the year before, and the year before that. It's a lot of money that was trimmed out of this system. And obviously that's very, very important. And then I just want to push a little bit. When we say we have stabilized our financial situation, do we mean that we're good? It's all fine. We don't have any worries, and we're going to sail into the future. And
No, but I only have one slide to put it all on.
I know you did, but I want us to be transparent,
Right.
and at the same time, I think we've done an enormous amount of work to get ourselves in a much better situation. I'm not sure we're all the way out of the woods. And
We're not.
can we talk just a little bit about that? Not to rain on your parade, but I think it's really important for anyone who might be watching as we start to go into budget season in the town of Rockport and in our school system.
So we are
Thank you.
defining stabilized our financial position as this is a year where we do not have to make financial reductions. We don't have to lose any more positions. And I promised myself and the team I'd stop saying right sizing at some point soon, but we have done that at this point. We have the the right amount of professional staff and support staff. We have the right dollars set up to support teaching and learning and moving kids forward right now where we are. But the cost of education will continue to go up. The 2.5% that the state holds us to is never going to change. So when you talk about Prop 2.5, that's not going to miraculously change overnight at the local level. Chapter 70 money is not going to just they're not going to wave a magic wand and change the Chapter 70 formula. So how education gets funded in Massachusetts is going to continue to be problematic, and that's a conversation that we all need to continue to have with our legislators. But right now, we're in a stabilized position. We can build the FY27 budget without having to make reductions, without having to ask for an exorbitant increase from the community. And that's a good place to be. But to your point, that does not mean FY28, 29, 30 are going to be easy budget builds. It just means right now we're on solid ground to look ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, there was a report published by the Massachusetts Municipal League of Towns and Cities, and it's something like the perfect storm in public finance, and it's about the squeeze. Now, I'm going out on a limb here, but it's the squeeze between the available money from the state, the amount of money that we can raise, and the rising cost of doing business. And so as we do this work, and then there's a follow-up report that they've put out as well, which are proposed policy recommendations given the squeeze that communities across the Commonwealth are going to feel themselves in. And I would imagine Rockport is no different. And so I just think it's really important for us to remember the challenging climate that we're in as we do this work. And as good as it feels to hear you say you don't anticipate big staffing cuts in order to develop this budget, I am really aware of broader forces at work around us, the cost of health insurance, energy, and aging buildings, and contractual obligations that we have, wanting to do right by employees. And so I look forward to the work that you and your staff will do, and I look forward to seeing some numbers over the next couple of weeks. And now that I've said all this stuff, I wonder, does anybody else on this committee, did this jog anything, or does anybody want to chime in or add anything, or did I don't mean to take the wind out of our sails. I mean to just make sure that we have a broad perspective in this conversation.
Okay. No, it just made me think that, I mean, you said all the things, but it made me think with what Mark was kind of saying, I think a good point to remember is we have kind of done the things that are in our circle of control, right? I'm a therapist, so we're always talking about the circles of control, what you can control, what other people control, so this just reminds me of that, and that, we have spent, the leadership team, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, everyone in the district has spent the last 3 years trying to focus on being responsible stewards of taxpayer money while providing, moving the district forward and doing everything we can with what is in our control. And then, of course, there are those forces that are outside our circle of control, and that's a broader conversation. But good to remember, too.
Anything else? I guess the only other question I have is, you mentioned that we get right back at it on January 7th, and then we'll see each other again on the 21st. I noticed one meeting in February, and I could be wrong, but I believe I only see one meeting in March. I don't know if that's correct or not. If you need a second, or if we need another meeting in March, I guess what I would say is that would be March 18th. And so I think it would be great if school committee members didn't plan out-of-town travel on March 18th, just in case you were thinking that's not a holiday week or anything, right? Like that, just in case we suddenly thought we needed one more meeting to talk before town meeting, it would be that date, just to make sure you have the time you need and that June has the time she needs, that we're not somehow scrunching
I
you.
agree. Yeah, it'd be great to have a placeholder.
Okay, so we'll just hold that. And okay.
I don't think you're taking the wind out of the sails. I think I think that it's a public conversation that we're having. and that choice of words was purposeful, right? We do feel like we're in a position where we've stabilized, but the wind changes quickly, and for when it comes to public financing, it's unpredictable, and the only thing you can predict is everything costs more every year. That's the only thing that stays predictable in most of our lives, and we know that, and so we will continue to work with all of our internal and external stakeholders to make sure that we can be ready beyond FY27.
Certainly the last 3 years have been grueling, so it's nice to see this initial report for this cycle. That's great. And then finance. Maybe we sort of did finance, budget and finance, yeah. All right. Anything before we leave budget and finance? All okay? Okay. All right. School committee discussion. Anything on our minds? No.
Please come to I think we have a last concert tomorrow night, right? We have a high school concert. This has been, again, I say this every year, kudos to the music department. It's the gauntlet. It's 6 concerts in 10 days. And so, I think they're furniture movers just as much as they're chorus, orchestra, and band directors this time of year. But so thank you to that staff. And thank you to the staff members who continuously show up to these concerts. Not every one of our staff members lives in Rockport. And it's noticeable when they're there. Their colleagues call them out from the stage and thank them for being there. The kids see them when they're coming on off the stage. And that doesn't happen in every school district. So I do really, really appreciate the extra effort that the staff puts into coming out to not just concerts, but sporting events and plays and musicals. And it's a really tight-knit place where we try to be there for each other.
That's great. Anything else? Do we need a subcommittee meeting around communication and engagement in order to brainstorm the next in the loop? Is that something that it's time to start to think about? Okay. And our policy subcommittee just met, so we probably don't need to do that for a while. Okay. I think this is our last meeting before winter break. It feels like that means we're halfway through the year, which is absolutely remarkable, right? Time really flies. I speak from my heart when I thank all of you for being on school committee. It's a joy to do the work with you. Thanks for being the superintendent. Thank you to the staff that comes every 2 weeks. You probably have other things you could be doing on Wednesday nights. I hope everybody has a really safe and wonderful and joyous winter break, winter holidays, whatever you celebrate. And we'll look forward to seeing you in the new year if we don't see you tomorrow night. Thank you all.